Do you hate that you feel like you're never getting any better? And every time you try to get better, you're just like, God damn, I suck. Like, there's so much to do, and I'm terrible at everything, and no one will ever give me an opportunity, or no one will ever like my art. Let me just say a couple things about this. I think it's important to recognize that people feel this way. Some of you guys might be listening to this and be like, what? Nah, dude. It's all about the grind. It's all about putting that time in. It's all about pulling yourself by the bootstraps, which, if I remember correctly, what the? Why is it so tiny? The heck? The heck? You guys ever have bad art because your resolution is very small and you're not a pixel artist? Anyway, um, yeah, like pulling yourself by the bootstraps, right? It's just this idea of you have boots and like you're pulling yourself up, right? Here's your hand, and then here's your bootstraps, and it's like pulling yourself by the bootstraps. But it's like the physics of that is impossible, right? You can't pull yourself up off the ground, which is a hilarious thing. And maybe the analogy is lost on me. Maybe there's more to it than what I'm explaining. But for those of you who aren't Sigma Giga Chads, I think it's important to understand that these types of feelings are incredibly valid, right? I validate you. It does suck. It does suck to feel these ways. But let me kind of offer an opportunity for you to reframe the situation you put yourself in and how you can probably um, find yourself getting out of it. And let's actually add more resolution here. And you might be like wondering too if you're looking at like percentages. What kind of monster are you? Like changing without knowing the exact resolution? It's because I'm working on a project where I need to think about percentages, not pixels. And so that's just where I'm at these days. I'm only a man of percentage. Anyway, let me give you a framework, a mental shift, a paradigm realignment that could help you understand kind of the situation you've indirectly or accidentally put yourself in. And I call this the circle of suck, which is which on its own is pretty sexual, and that's not the idea. But that's kind of why I call it. So don't worry about it. Just that's just the name. So the circle of suck is this. Imagine that this is you, this is your work, right? And you suck. You're not good at the thing that you want to get good at. You are not achieving, your goals, and you feel bad. Like you feel that you're not good at the things that you'd like to be good at. And this is normal. This is a normal thing. Most of us aren't good at a lot of things, so it's okay. So you make an attempt, right? So the first thing you do is you realize that you must practice. Or actually, let me rephrase this. You realize that you suck. We'll just keep using this. And then you go and practice. And then you find out that it's very difficult, very hard to get good. And then what ends up happening, and this is the part that I want to help reframe or to reimagine, you realize that it's hard, and then you typically will quit or stop or avoid or, I mean, list the many millions of things that one will do to not pursue this any further. And this is the circle of suck, because then you try to practice, it's very challenging, you quit or you avoid or you procrastinate, and then you stay bad. And then months go by, and then you start saying, oh my gosh, I'm not good again, and then you do this cycle again. And you just aren't marginally, like you're just not reasonably getting better, and it's unfortunate. It feels bad. And I think this is the thing that I would love for you to break. Because obviously, let's 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 lock some stuff in. Yes, you do suck. You're not good at the thing. And that's okay. Again, it's valid. We aren't all good at anything. I can't do a backflip. Like if I was asked to do a backflip right now, I would be dead. I would break my neck. But the way I would try to accomplish this is I would train, right? I would do some practice. Now, I would probably do some mediocre or some moderate practice to kind of build my strength, but I would practice. This, again, we can't break. This is ironclad. This is a solid foundation of understanding. Training, practicing, studying, analyzing, rinse and repeat. This must happen. Okay? What else is ironclad? It is not supposed to just be easy. It's not supposed to be hard either. It's just not supposed to be anything. It's just what it is. And most likely it is going to be hard a lot of the times, but not every time. There are some times you'll practice something and it just makes sense to you. You just like get it. And then you will wrongfully, assign those feelings to something that you try to practice that is hard to then assume, oh, well, I must be doing something wrong. No, it is indifferent what happens when you practice. Practice is just practice. And the more something is hard, I always tell people, then you should double down. What that is revealing to you is the fact that you don't know this or you're having a challenge in this, is that you should double down on getting it done. Because that is clearly your body telling you, this hurts our feelings. And that feeling that's being hurt is evidence of improvement to be made. Okay? So this is also an ironclad thing that will almost always happen. But like I said, it's not saying that it's always hard. It's just that something being hard is just not a reasonable assessment of the situation, of thinking, like taking it personal. Like, no, it's just some things are just hard to do. Some things aren't. Either way, practicing and encountering some hardship, these are ironclad. This is not ironclad. This is optional. If you decide to quit, there's a couple good reasons. Maybe you went to school and somebody told you wanted to do this, or you told you have to do this thing. A prime example, most of us probably encountered as artists. You should do graphic design. And for those of you who are listening to this or graphic designers, if you wanted to be a graphic designer, this does not apply to you. It is just a common thing I see in my field specifically. People who went into something else when they actually wanted to be concept artists or illustrators. Okay, so I'm only using this hypothetical in this context, but the reverse could be true. There could be somebody that thought they wanted to be a concept artist, but then they actually want to do graphic design. This is irrelevant. Like whatever A, B, B, A situation we have here, insert what makes sense for you. But the idea is, let's say you went to the school and you were asked to do graphic design and you decided you don't want to do that. Like that's not what you want to do. You've always wanted to be a character illustrator, from since you were a kid. And you went to art school hoping to do more of that, but then you were told you ought not to because somebody wasn't able to in their life, or they just feel like, oh, it's hard though, bro. It's hard. It's hard to get into this business. Yes, it is. So what? Did you want to do it or not? Right? And so if you wanted to quit whatever this is because it's actually not what you care to do, then I think that's absolutely reasonable. And it's also valid. It is valid to quit. Totally. But let's say it is something you actually want to do. It's character illustration. You want to be a character illustrator. And as you practice and you realize it's very fucking hard to be a character illustrator, then you quit. Again, this is optional and it's valid. But this is where I would be highly critical of your decision making and your lack of focus. Because if you really want to be a character illustrator, this is the difference. This is what's preventing you from doing that. because the other person who decided not to quit is the person who's overcoming these hardships and overcoming the challenges and ultimately getting the opportunity that you probably could have had. It is what truly separates the winners from the losers. It's really this simple. Obviously, there are a lot of nuance when it starts to get into how to apply for jobs, how to build a portfolio, how to network, all of these things that become really, really important later in your ability to try to acquire some financial success. I am not arguing this. I'm arguing that if you don't even have it in you to do the thing that you want to do, then all those other steps are probably not even worth talking about. If you're not even trying to become great at the thing that you want to be great at, that is all within your control. And if you're not even doing that, then why are you even asking how to apply for a job? Do you see what I'm getting at? So anyway, again, there's more nuance in terms of actual success beyond this, but we can at least succeed at this one thing, which is being great at our craft. And this is optional. And like I said, what separates those who end up finding an opportunity is that they don't simply quit. They will simply, I don't know how to explain this. Re-examine. Maybe let's use re-examine. Re-examine and practice what they've re-examined based off of what they've realized was hard. And then they still suck. So this moves to here. But if you notice, using this visual diagram, it has elevated. If I was to say, right in the center of this circle is your actual ability, your skill to make great content. And the closer you are to this little circle, the worse you are at art. Okay? So this right here is pretty freaking close. So you're not that great. This one is not that far. Not that much further, I mean. But it is further. Right? From this original point. Again, this is the ultimate ground zero of inability. And you'll notice that you've elevated. And sure enough, you got to do what? You got to practice. And sure enough, it's going to be mandatory. And then it's going to probably be hard. Again, most likely mandatory. And then again, you're going to re-examine and you're going to practice. And then you're probably still going to suck. But you've elevated. And you're this much further from where zero skill applied. And you'll notice that if you follow this trend, instead of it being a circle of suck, it becomes a spiral towards excellence. And eventually, you'll be good. Eventually, you'll be great. Eventually, you'll be a pro. And beyond that is like, Giga Chad, cerebral, multi-universal hive mind, right? Whatever, if you keep going. But essentially, it is a spiral that you want to kind of maintain. And it is like as it appears. It will go further and further away from absolute zero, meaning that you'll have more and more abilities and more skills, and then you will ultimately become an incredible good artist. And then you can start asking some good questions about what it's like to approach people at events and what it's like to put your artwork online. I mean, these will be different videos that I will probably comment on. But at the end of the day, this is how I like to imagine what you should probably have in your brain instead of the circle of suck, right? Which keeps you locked in place. And it's unfortunate because, again, acknowledging that you're not good at something is a valid criticism of yourself. It's a valid point to have about where you're at in your work. And so you have to practice, and it is hard, but it's like, what hope do I have? This hopelessness is self-inflicted. There's no one out there telling you that you can't do what you want to do. They might say that it's really hard and it's competitive, and you know how many years you're gonna do. Like, okay, but ask yourself this: how many years have you stayed in this cycle? Right? If you've been in this cycle for more than 3 to 4 years, I have bad news to tell you. You've collected art debt, which is a whole different video I made. Because in those 3 to 4 years, if you were approaching more of a spiral, you would have had a portfolio, you would have had a lot more skill acquired, 3 years of focus and dedication and discipline. Bro, you would have been great. It would have been weird if you weren't. And again, keep in mind, consistency. I have been consistently painting for nearly 20 years. And many of you like who follow me on my Instagram, like compliment on like how I'm like just so diverse. I'm like moving all over the place. And that is a consequence of me literally drawing all the freaking time, making moves all the freaking time. And to me, my spiral is off this chart. It's also like 3-dimensional. Like it's this whole thing. And so I hope you guys could respect this perspective. But at the end of the day, I am not discounting people's personal challenges, that maybe in 3 years you had to have a full-time gig, you had to take care of loved ones. Maybe 3 years is just not reasonable. Maybe 5 years, maybe 6 years. But again, ask yourself, how long have you been in this cycle, regardless of your circumstances? And if you use your circumstances consistently and constantly as a barometer of how hard it is for you, I am here to tell you that that is also incredibly valid. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't move the needle any closer to success and to excellence that you might have been aiming for. You know, it might not get you any closer, but it's such a valid thing to be critical of. You know, it is an incredibly valid thing to be like, hey, you know, I have fucking life. Take it from me. I know. You know, I got tattooed on my leg a phrase that was once told to me by my close friend Kaylin Chalk, and the phrase was, you know, art is easy, life is hard. And he told me this during a time where I was having a lot of challenges in my life. I had so many things going on, and I just wasn't sure how to handle it. And I was saying this because at the time too, I was doing actually the opposite. I was doing really well in my career, and yet I was having all of these feelings of like sadness and anxiety, and I just felt lost. And yet I was doing great career-wise. And I would be lying to tell you that that hasn't changed, that things in my life are still very challenging. Things in my life are still incredibly hard in a lot of ways that many of you might never know. And for me, when he says art is easy, he's just commenting on that. Like, yeah, I was able to succeed and do all these things, and it was great. But that's because that part's the easier part. Life is what makes things truly hard, you know? Because if you think about why it is to practice and then why you're so overwhelmed that it's such a challenge to do it, it's because maybe you're thinking, this is like not making sense to me right away, but I need to get a job. And the fact that I'm being slowed down by this is annoying. And like, I can't I need to be able to be more efficient with my time and so forth and so on. You start talking yourself out of it, right? But that's because probably your life circumstances are driving you to have these thoughts that are making something that is obviously supposed to be done, which is training and practicing. It's just making you feel overwhelmed because life is telling you the fact that you're not able to understand this now that's a problem. When in reality, if it was just a hobby or if it was just a passing skill, who cares if I'm not the best, right? Like I'm just trying to do this for fun. But if the stakes are I need to get a fucking job and I don't understand how to fucking draw an art, you know, then that's what drives that emotion. And many of you guys might be hearing this and really understanding what I'm saying. And I'm just trying to say, it's valid. I hear you, man. I think you're right that your life has some challenges in front of you. But we can't put on our portfolio, hey, my life is challenging. Hey, I had this tragedy. If your work is not good enough, that is ultimately going to be one of the main and biggest drivers on whether people will bring you on board in the first place. And all of the romantic stories of your trials and tribulations will only be an accent to your underdog story of accomplishing the success, overcoming these challenges. Your origin story is tight as fuck. But that's not why you got the job. You got the job in spite of all of these challenges. This is what is really inspiring. But you got to understand, I have met all sorts of people who have all sorts of challenges. My challenges may not nearly be as bad or as hard as many of you guys that are listening. And I am absolutely acknowledging this. But I know people who have it worse than probably you do. I had a few students prior to the war in Ukraine that were signing up for my class. And when they got invaded by Russia, several of my students had to take a rain check. A few of them because they were in Ukraine and they had to evacuate. Others because they're in Russia and their government just decided to invade another country. Two worlds, but the same interests, the same. And this is what makes war a fucking tragedy, right? There's a saying, the biggest victims of war are the soldiers, right? Because there's this like interview that I saw where this guy was talking about this, where he like invaded like a quote unquote terrorist's home and shot and killed him in front of this guy's family. And he like post traumatic syndrome, like he just still is at odds with what he did. And he was just always wondering, like, oh, like aside from our ideological disagreements and perhaps the things that he would have done that were also deplorable, like this guy that he murdered, he was just kind of like, but what if we met at a bar? What if we met like at an event that we both have interest in? Like, what if it was like a sports event or something? Like he was just kind of going through like why did I kill this guy? Because my government told me I had to. Like, it was crazy. So getting back to this Ukrainian point I'm making is that some of these students got back to me. Some of the Ukrainian students, they either fled or they, were on solid footing, so they were able to kind of take classes, and that was great. And I even told them, you don't need to. You can just get refunds. Just let me know. But they're like, no, I want to do this. And then I had other Ukrainian students that even to this day, I have yet to hear from them, which is incredibly morbid. Because for those of you who don't know, a lot of Ukrainian men specifically were kind of essentially just drafted to the war, in the conflict to engage. And some of these students might have gone and are either still fighting in the conflict or worse. This is me trying to recognize that I don't know what any of you guys are going through. And I am not ever going to discount those challenges. All I'm trying to do is offer some opportunities to rethink about your circumstances, to find potentially another alternative, to help you start to think of alternatives, to help you start to potentially reimagine how you can change your circumstances within the context of what you have going on for you now. And if the answer is still, this is more than me just drawing every once in a while, then it seems fair to assume then this is probably not on your mind anyway. You know what I mean? Going back to some of these students that are probably literally fighting in a war, being a concept artist is truly probably the last thing on their mind. That's what I'm getting at. And they quit, and I'm putting that in quotations, for an incredibly valid reason. You see what I'm saying? There are good reasons to not pursue your goals. And if that is fair for you, then that is fair for you. But just understand what decision you've just made. And it should be respected. But if you're one of those people that constantly comes to the table saying, oh, but I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that. I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that. You know, if you're in a position where you're even able to have these consistent concerns about your abilities, then maybe take some of my advice. Break free from it. You might be surprised what will come of it. You know? And I hope that you guys understand that I really am rooting for all of you guys. And there are plenty of opportunities for those who are willing and able. You just got to put yourself out there. You got to really go for it. You got to really try. You know what I mean? And yeah. And I know a lot of you guys really, 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 really appreciate these videos. And I'm going to try to make a lot of these videos more so about this type of stuff. A lot of this type of stuff I actually talk about in my mentorships, and I encounter students personally. But a lot of this advice, I think, is incredibly valid and valuable, even outside of just what it means to be an artist. You know, like if there are other things in your life that you wish you could do that are not specifically art related, I think this advice can still be incredibly useful to people, to a lot of individuals. This is why I like giving it. I think one of my biggest annoyances about my social media presence is that I draw the stuff that I draw. I draw like this kind of like robotic monsters and cool looking fantasy characters from time to time. And what I'm like annoyed by is that it's very clearly a certain demographic of individuals that tend to be gravitated towards these types of imagery. And I am not bothered that this is true because it is what I draw, and I have no interest in changing kind of drawing the stuff that I don't like to draw for the sake. I'm not going to draw stuff I don't like to draw. I'm going to always draw what I like to draw. But it is kind of a bit of annoying that I think a lot of things I say, though, has almost nothing to do with what I'm drawing. It can apply to people from all walks of life, and yet it only reaches a certain group of people pretty consistently and regularly. So if you guys could do me a favor, share this type of stuff with your friends and colleagues that you think would really appreciate this type of content, regardless of their background, but you think that they really could value this, like, please do so. Because then it will sharpen my overall appeal and I can reach more and more folks. So I think it's good insight that helps a lot of people. I've seen it work literally for countless amounts of people, thousands and thousands and thousands of people that I teach yearly. I know their lives have changed meaningfully. And it's really one of my greatest gifts that I have contributed to our art community. And I want to start bringing back this vibe. I want us to start to be more intertwined and interconnected and helping each other once again in a lot of meaningful ways. I think we need it. Anyway, I painted over this so I have something on the thumbnail. If you guys are wondering what the heck's going on here. Because I think just like a diagram might not be an immediate draw, you know. But this is a little. I think this will have people be, oh, cool, you know. And then you guys get a demo out of it, a little painting demo. See how I did this. Anyway, I'm gonna stop here. Ooh, no, actually, let's do some fun stuff. Let's add some color to this bad boy. Let's spice it up. Oh, that's super spicy. This feels cool. Let's work with this for a little bit. This kind of like mud yellow might be might not be great. Oh, excuse me. Let's add like another thing here. See what happens if we get real wacky, y'all. This might be too wacky. That might be okay. Let's see. Let's fuck around and find out. Let's give this some more saturation. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm convinced of this, to be honest. Let's lock it in. And then let's try. Oh wait, whoops. Let's try this right here. Because this one looks really cool. I was really excited about this one. Yeah, see, that's pretty visceral. But I think I already did one of those like that. So let me do something that's a little bit more potentially spiritual feeling. Because it's kind of spiritual. Um, yeah, I think the gold one, there's something regal about that I might just stick with. Just need to change this to more yellow. And then change this one to more oranges. Yeah, I think this will be cool. This will be fine. And then let's do a little bit of color lookup. And then let's call it a day, friends. Get this video out of there. Have you guys start watching it. Yeah, but share my channel. Like, comment, all the YouTube stuff that all the people do to build engagement. Absolutely, let's do it. Again, I have no interest on taking on sponsors. I have no interest on speaking on topics that I don't have any interest in. You know, I just want to talk about stuff that I think will help other artists and motivate and inspire everybody to begin their art journeys. Oh, dude, you know what? I'm gonna add some color douche. Let's bring that in there. Yeah, and keep the. Actually, this is too aggressive, y'all. Maybe I won't do it. Kind of like it, but I'm like also like, am I just trying to make this so it looks crazy? The answer to that is yes. Ooh, 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 ooh. Yeah, this blue complements the warmness. Yeah, let's just leave a little bit in there. Just a little bit of flavor on this bad boy. Yeah, let's knock this down to 25. Yeah, baby. Okay, cool. It's very subtle. I like it. Hope this video really helps a lot of you guys out there that are listening. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one, man. Have a good rest of your day, guys. Have a great weekend.